Okay, so this is lesson 1 of your boot camp. We're going to talk about exponents today. So remember, exponents is just that little number at the top there. And all it means is to multiply the big number however many times it says. So here's 3 to the 4th power. You're just going to multiply 3 4 times. It's not 3 times 4. That would be 12. This is 3 times 3 is 9. 9 times 3 to get 81. Okay? So let's look at what this is called so you know the vocabulary when it comes time to your test. So the base number here, so the big number and the small number together is called the power. This here, the big number, is called the base. Sometimes you'll see it called coefficient, but on your test they'll probably call it base. And then the little number at the top is called the exponent. You got to remember that exponents, it tells you how many times to multiply out the base. So this is 5 to the 3rd power is how you say that. So then you go 5 times 5 is 25 times 5 is 125. So you just multiply it out however many times the exponent tells you to multiply the base out. So there's some rules with exponents, and you're just going to have to memorize them. So this is one of what they call the power standards. So this will definitely be on your test. So just maybe make up some flashcards or something, and this will help you all through high school too, because you're going to have to use this over and over and over and over again. Okay? So if you look here, so we would call them the law of exponents or exponent rules. So the first one, exponential form. The exponent of a power indicates how many times the base has multiplied itself. That's what I already went over. So the base, and then this tells you how many times. So if we had 5 to the 3rd power, this just tells you you need to multiply it out 3 times. Remember, it's not 5 times 3. It's 5 times 5 is 25. Then 25 times 5 is 125. Okay. So the next rule, and you might want to pause the video and write this down. That's what I would do. If you write it down, it helps to commit it to memory. There's a bunch of research on that, so write stuff down. I know you don't want to do it. I mean, school, but you want to do well on your test. You want to do well on your grades. So get a math notebook and write these down as we go. Just call it laws of exponents. And then I would maybe make some flashcards up and just go over them for just once a day. Just go over your flashcards once a day and you'll memorize these. Okay, so the second rule is multiplying powers. Okay, if you're multiplying powers with the same base, you keep the base and add the exponents. I know that's weird, right? Multiplying, I've got to add. But just think multiplication is repeated addition, right? So that's kind of how you can remember that. So if we have x times x, we're just going to add the exponents. So you have x, and then the answer would be m plus n. It's m plus n because we don't know what the numbers are. But if you look down here in our example, we have 2 to the 6th power times 2 to the 3rd power. And then you're just going to add these two together. So we have 2 to the 6 plus 3 power. And what's 6 plus 3? 9. So then you're just going to do 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 9 times, okay? And if you multiply that out, 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. And remember, you're allowed to use a calculator. You're allowed to use a calculator. So don't think you have to do everything in your head. I don't want you to do everything in your head. You need to get used to using scratch paper and using your calculator, okay? Those are going to help you so much when you take your test. Scratch paper, calculator. And don't worry about what everybody else is doing around you because it's not about them. It's about what you know, okay? So when you multiply powers, you add exponents. Write that down. When you multiply powers, you add exponents. So pause this if you need to. Get this written down. And always write down an example too. Because when you write down the example, you don't have to go back and be like, oh, I don't remember what that means. Okay, write down the examples. Okay, so the next one is division. So multiplication and addition go together. what do you think goes with division? Subtraction, right? So when dividing powers, now remember this is with the same base. Same base. Remember the big one is the base. Okay? Keep the base and subtract the exponents. So remember, even it looks like a fraction, it's always a division. Because that means that fraction line there means divide. Okay? So we have xm divided by xn, which will be xm minus n. Okay, so look at our example here. 2 to the 6th power over 2 to the 2nd power. We're just going to subtract those. It'll be 2 is your base, and then 6 minus 2, which is 4. Then you have 2 to the 4th power. So then you can multiply it out. 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. Okay? And that will equal 16. So when you divide powers, subtract the exponents. And keep in mind, it's powers with the same base. Powers with the same base. Okay? Alright. So you're just going to do a quick little practice, okay? So just do the odd numbers. What are odd numbers? You should know this, you're in 8th grade. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. Just do the odd ones, okay? Pause it. Figure out the odd ones. Write them down. Use a calculator. And then unpause and check your answers. So pause now. Work out the odd ones. Okay, so check your answers. Number 1, we multiply, so that means we add the exponents. So it's 3 to the 4th power, which would be 81. Now, if you got that wrong, is it just because you did 3 to the 3rd power, or you did too many? Sometimes you might want to write those down and check them off as you put them in the calculator. Okay, you're supposed to do number 3. A to the 5th power times A to the 2nd power. Remember, we're just adding. So it would be A to the 7th power because 5 plus 2 is 7. Okay. Number 5. Negative 2 to the 2nd power times negative 3 to the 3rd power equals negative 3. And then you do 2 plus 3. So the parentheses are not there to throw you off. They just use the parentheses so you know it's negative as opposed to like maybe subtraction. So it just kind of helps it keep it straight so your eyes can see it. So you have negative 2 plus 3. Because remember, it's multiplication. Multiplication, we're adding. Multiplication, we're adding. Division, we're subtracting. When you multiply negative numbers, if it is an even number, it's going to be positive. If it's odd, it's going to be negative. So 5 is odd, so it's going to be negative. That's why you get negative 243. If it was to the 6th power, it would be a positive number. So that's how you figure it out if your calculator does not have a negative number. Just remember if you're multiplying by odds or even. Okay, number 7. Now, division is subtraction. Remember, division is subtraction. Division is subtraction when it comes to exponents. So we're just doing 12 minus 4. And that's 8. We don't know what the number is. It's just s. So you just keep it s minus is 8s to the 8th power. Okay, look at number 9. Ooh, this one's a little tricky. A little tricky. You have 12 minus 4. Because its bases are the same. Okay? So it's division, means subtraction. So you do s to the 12th minus 4 power because you're doing 12 minus 4. Now you have to put the t next to it because they're not the same base. So when they're different bases, you got to separate it out. So t is going to be next to it. And then you do the same thing, just 8 minus 4. And then when you figure that out, 12 minus 4 is 8. So it's s to the 8th power. 8 minus 4 is 4, so t to the 4th power. And that is as simplified as it can get. Okay? And if you, those were plugged, if you plug numbers in there, You should be able to figure it out no problem. Okay, same here. Oh, we didn't do number 10, so you're good. So did you check those? If not, we'll do some more practice if you didn't get that, but we'll do a little bit more practice. Okay, our next rule is power of a power. I know there's so many rules, right? So if you're raising a power to an exponent, you multiply the exponents. So you see how you have the N out here and the M in here? I wish they'd use different letters. Those are hard to say. So you just multiply them together. Remember when your number, or in this case letters, your variables are your letters, are right next to each other, that means multiply. When they're right next to each other, that means multiply. So let's plug in some numbers here. So we have 5 to the 3rd power, and then that's going to be multiplied to the 2nd power. So we're just going to multiply the 3 and the 2. Just multiply the two exponents. So it'll be 5 times 3, 5 to the 3rd times 2 power. Okay, multiply those. 3 times 2 is not 5. That is 6. They did that wrong. They did that wrong. I can't believe they did that wrong. Hang on a second. Okay, see, I fixed that right up. So, see how easy it is to make a mistake? Even the people who made this made a mistake. They added, and you don't add here, you multiply. So, 3 times 2 is 6. So, it'll be 5 to the 6th power. Okay? Then you just multiply 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5. Okay? So, when you take a power to a power, you multiply the exponents. When you take a power to a power, you multiply the exponents. Pause it, write it down, use the correct example, the one I corrected, and have that in your notes. Okay, number 5 is product law of exponents. If the product of the bases is powered by the same exponent, then the result is a multiplication of individual factors of the product, each powered by the given exponent. What? That's a lot of words. That's crazy. That's just crazy. All right, so let's see if we can simplify this. All right, so we have xy. Remember, if they're right next to each other, it means multiply. So if that was, they would have it in parentheses like that. But if it said, let's say 5y, that means just multiply if it tells you what y is. So xy and to the nth power. So then it's just saying, if we have something that looks like this, you're going to give that n, or whatever the exponent is, to each variable or number that's in here. So these are variables. These are our letters. So we just kind of distribute it out. Okay? So it'll be a to the 2nd power, b to the 2nd power. It uses a lot of words. It's really not that hard. You just have to, just like your math problems, you have to simplify. So when you take a power of a product, remember a product is an answer to a multiplication problem, apply the exponents to all factors in the product. So just distribute it out. Just make that 2, or whatever the exponent is, go to each variable or number that's in there. Okay? Write this, deposit, write this down. Make sure this is a flashcard. These are just laws, rules you're going to have to memorize. Like I said, just make flashcards and just go once a day. Once before you go to bed. Once when you wake up. Something. Just once a day, look at these. And I promise you it'll start sticking in your head. And when it's time to come to that test, you won't have nothing to worry about. Alright. Quotient law of exponents. Remember, quotient's just an answer to a division problem. So if the quotient of the bases is powered by the same exponent, then the result is both numerator and denominator, each powered by the given exponent. So when you have this like this, you see, you have remember the fraction is the same as a division problem. That's all that a fraction means. Then let me move this webcam. So then you're just gonna, like we did for the multiplication problem, you're just going to distribute the exponent out. So x gets an n, the numerator gets an n, and the denominator gets an n, whatever the exponent is. In this case, down here in our example, the 2 gets the exponent of 4, the 3 gets the exponent of 4. So remember, that's 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. So you need to keep track of how many times you're multiplying. Maybe in your calculator it'll show you. Like I have a calculator, it puts them all out so I can just count 1, 2, 3. Ooh, I need to back it up 1. They don't really let you use that fancy of calculators on the state test, but there you go. You might want to write them down each time you put it in your calculator and multiply it out. And then the same thing, so you have 3 to the 4th power, 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, remember? And then that's your answer. And then, if they want you to simplify it further, you might see if you can divide it by 2, see if you can divide it by 3, but whatever you divide the top number by, you've got to divide the bottom number by, okay? So if they want it simplified, that's what you want to do. So you're just going to, when it's like this, power of quotient, you're going to apply the exponent to all parts of the quotient, just like when it was the multiplication problem. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right. Ooh, sorry, I had to move that around. Practice this. Do the odds. Pause it. So let's see how you did. So pause now. Okay, remember, this is just multiplication. 5 times 2 is 10. So it's 3 to the 10th power. And then you can figure that out. 3 to 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 3. That's a lot if you want to. Number 3, 2a to the 2nd power. Remember, you've got to distribute the exponent to everything that's in there. So the 2 gets a 3, and the a gets the 3. So remember, when you do that, you have to multiply. So we have 2 to the 3rd power. And then a is 2 times 3 power. So we have 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. We're doing it 3 times. That's how we got the 8 here. And then 2 times 3 is 6. So it's 8a to the 6th power. Did you get that? Okay, here we're getting trickier. 5. Remember, we've got to distribute this 2 out. So it's going to be negative 3 to the 2nd power. And then a to the 2 times 2 power. So 3 times 3 is 9. And when negative times a negative is a positive. So it'll be positive 9. I know, that's weird. That's different than what we talked about before. So let me tell you why. So if you do it in a calculator where you can see it, like mine, you can see as it goes across. Let me just tell it to you. So if we do negative 3 times negative 3, it's a positive 9. We have even numbers there. So now if I do times a negative 3, now it's negative 27. So if you're multiplying it by an odd number, it'll be negative. If you multiply it by an even number, it'll be positive. So negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3 is negative 27. But now if I go a 4th time for negative 3, now it's a positive 81. So just kind of remember that. Keep that in mind when you need to do negatives and positives. If you're multiplying it by an even amount of times, it's going to be positive. If you're multiplying it by an odd amount of times, it's going to be negative. So many rules, right? But you know what? You can do it because you're a hard worker. And you can work hard to get the answers correct. You can work hard to make sure that you have a good test score, right? I know that. I know you do. Everybody wants that. You want that. I know that makes you feel good when you have those better test scores. So you just got to put a little bit of effort in. Okay. So let's look at number 7. There we go. So remember, you have to distribute the exponent to top and bottom. So s to the 5th power, t to the 5th power. You just put it top and bottom. And then you have number 9 you have to do. So st to the 8th power and rt to the 4th power, all to the 2nd exponent here. So you're just going to multiply this by distributing the 2 to everybody there. So you'll have S2 so 9 I had to think about. Alright, so see, even I had to write this down. So we have st to the 8th to the second power, rt4. And we've got to distribute that 2 everywhere. So then we have s2. I'm working this one out for you because it's multi-step. And then t, what's 8 times 2? 16. Draw that line. And then we have r to the second power. So we're distributing this 2 out, right? Oh, we shouldn't do it on this one. Here, distributing the 2 out. Okay, and then we have, that does not look like a 2. You get that. That's supposed to be a 2, guys. And then we have t, and then 4 times 2 is 8. Now remember, this goes back to what we had to do at the beginning. When you have it like this, you have to subtract like terms. So the t's are our same variables. So we are going to, let me erase this. Okay, so look up here. So s is going to stay the same because there's nothing to subtract it with. Now the t, we have 16 minus 8. 16 minus 8 is 8. Okay? That's how we're getting that number. Then you have your fraction line. We have r2. And we don't have t's anymore because we did 16 minus 8. So that got rid of this t here. Do you see that? So that's how we get this answer right there. Okay? That one was a little tricky because we had to remember we had to multiply this exponent out. And then once we got it in this state here, then we had to subtract it out to get our final answer. So it takes you a minute. And I had to write that down. I had to pause, and I had to write it down to figure it out, how we came up with that answer. So that's what you are going to have to do if you want to get these things correct. If I'm an old teacher and I have to write these down, you who's just learning these things for the first time, you're probably going to need to write these down too. I know it takes longer. I know it takes longer. We don't want things that take longer. We want to quickly. But if you want to do your best, which I know you do, and I know you're completely capable of, you want to write this down. You want to use a calculator. You want to write it out. When you're taking these state tests, I want to see that you are not turning in a blank sheet of paper. When you turn in your scratch paper, I want to see math problems all over it. Okay? Math problems all over it. Okay? Alright, let's keep going. Okay, get your notebook out. Let's do the negative law of exponents. Number 7. If the base is powered by a negative exponent, then the base becomes reciprocal with a positive exponent. Again, so many words. Like, what? Okay, so let's see what they're talking about here. So we have x to the negative m power, the negative exponent. Okay, so reciprocal means we're just going to take this and put it on the bottom of a fraction and put 1 on top. It's always going to be 1. Don't ask me why, but it's always going to be 1. Okay? So, let's look at an example of numbers. So we have 5 to the negative 3 power. Put it on the bottom. And it has to be the opposite. You see that? So we have the negative m. When you put it on the bottom, it changes to the opposite of what it is. So that becomes a positive 3. Positive 5 to the 3rd power. So now we have 1. And then when you just figure that out, it's 5 times 5 times 5. Okay? So 5 times 5 is 25. 25 times 5 is 125. Okay? So, let's look at this one. We have 1 to the 3rd to the negative 2 power. Okay, so that becomes a positive. Because we're doing the reciprocal. So, this is already in the bottom. So, let me show you. Let's write this one out. So, we have 1. So if they give you this problem, we need to make the reciprocal. So the reciprocal of this is 3. And we've got to make this negative exponent a positive. 3 to the second power over 1. But you don't need to write over 1 because you can think of every number as being over 1. Okay? It's just that number, whatever it is. But sometimes it helps when you write it out like that to get it straight in your head to the reciprocal. Okay, so this is really 3 to the second power over 1 because reciprocal means flip it. You want to flip, flip, flip it. So when it's given to you like this, x to the negative n power, that means the 1 is on the bottom, is the denominator. So you want to flip it. You want to make it on top. And if you have it the other way, if you're given this, let's say you're given this, you would flip this and it would be x negative m over 1. But you don't need the over 1. Okay? You don't need the over 1. But in your head, remember that's there. So when you have a negative exponent, switch the base to its reciprocal, which makes it positive. So if the base with the negative exponent is in the denominator, like we have here, it moves to the numerator and loses the negative sign. It's being put on top, it's not negative anymore. Okay? Alright. This is a really weird one to memorize. So if you see any number to the 0 exponent, it equals 1. It does not matter what the number or the variable is. Weird, right? It's going to be 1. So 5 to the 0 power is 1. A to the 0 power is 1. 5a to the 0 power is 1. 5,300,000,000,002 is going to be 1 if it's to the 0 power. I know. Where did they get this stuff? Somebody smarter than me did this. So 0 factors of a base equals 1. Every power has a coefficient of 1. So this is 1 to the 1 power. If we did 7, 7 is to the 1 power, but you don't need to write it because 7 times 1 is 7. You don't need to write that. So anytime the exponent is 0, the answer is 1. Repeat it after me. Anytime the exponent is 0, the answer is 1. Put that on a flashcard. That should be an easy one to memorize. Exponent is 0, it equals 1. All right, let's do some practice. Go for the odds. Pause it, try them out. Okay, so number 1's easy. Look, it doesn't matter what anything's in here. It doesn't matter what is in there. If it's to the power of 0, boom, 1. All right, 3 is one of those two-steppers. So we know that we have, when they're like this, we have to multiply, right? So 5 times negative 1 is negative 5. And if it's negative, what'd you put in your notes that you have to do? Yeah, it's got to be thrown on the bottom. Okay, so it becomes the denominator, and you put a 1 on top, right? Yep. All right, let's look at number 5. Whew. Okay, 5 is one of those multi-steppers. Okay, so remember we've got to multiply this negative 4 here. So it would be 3. Negative 4 would be its new exponent. And then we have the x. 4 times 2 is 8. So negative 2 times negative 4 is positive 8. Okay. And then we multiply these. Positive 3 times negative 4 is a negative 12. It's a negative number. So remember, we have to throw the negatives down below. So we need these to be positive. So this would be 3, and then become 3 to the positive 4th power. So that's 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, and which makes that 81. And then the y becomes a positive, and the 8's already positive, so it stays at the top. Did you get that one right? That was a tough one. If you didn't get that one right, you might want to try one of the others too, just to double check. And look at yours. So if you kind of write it out, like I had to write it out to figure it out. See where you got it wrong. Where did you mess it up at? Okay. All right. Number 7. You need to do number 7. Take a look at that. You should have x over 4 is your final answer. So let's solve what's in the parentheses first. So we have 2 times 2 gives us 4. Okay? Now we have this negative, and remember, we got to throw it at the bottom if it's a negative. So we did the 2 times 2, so now we have 4 over x. Now we've got to distribute this guy. So we just kind of flip them. Since it's negative 1, there's nothing that we have to, any number times 1 is a number itself. So we have 4 and the x. You just kind of flip it. You do the reciprocal of it. Okay? How about 9? Look at 9. So same thing. We've done one similar to this before. So you have s, which will be negative 2, t, which will be negative 2, and then, because do the parentheses first. Okay? Do the parentheses first. And then you have the negative 2 you got to give to everybody. So then you have s to the 4th, t to the 4th. Okay? So now what I want you to do is I want you to practice. I know, right? Practice. You're going to go into your Clever and you're going to find this Coach Digital. Catch up to Coach this. And you're going to find your assignment there. Okay, so it's going to be, what? Over exponents. So this is just going over what we just said. So this is another way to do it. It's all written down for you. So look at that. See, look, those are things that we just went over. And take a quick read over it. I mean, maybe you're doing this on a different day, then you watch the rest of the video. Just do it a little refresher. Okay? Look at these examples. Let's try them. Like, cover it up and see if you can get the answer before you see the answer. Okay, then you'll have a little practice. Okay? So this is what I want you to do, these practices. And see, this is set up how your state test is going to be. Your state test will be multiple choice. So if you don't find your answer in here, go back and see where maybe you went wrong. Something went wrong there. Okay? Can you do those for me, please? Go through those. And the last thing I want you to do is the performance matters for this. If you open up your performance matters and it says empty, text me and let me know so that I can reset it and you can take the performance matters quiz. Okay? All right. Let me know if you have any questions.